Illinois finished the fiscal year on June 30th with a surplus. And the conversation about how to use that money, of course, put it into the rainy day fund or just move it into surplus for the current fiscal year. And how do you use that to get the biggest bang for your buck? Obviously, it's a big question. Illinois' short-term finances seeming to be shored up, but it's the long-term finances where your tax dollars are going to fund legacy pension debt that's going to be around for a long time. You're talking $140 billion of unfunded liability, let alone the other post-employment benefits that state retirees get who worked for state government. So that's a looming debt that any small surplus from a fiscal year is just not really going to address. They build into each budget amounts of money to go to pensions, and in the forthcoming budget, that budget that started July 1st, no longer forthcoming, we're in it, it actually funds about $10 billion for pensions. That's 1 out of every 5 tax dollars the state's bringing in. That's going to go to pensions. So you're talking a $50+ billion budget, and they're giving $10 billion to the state's pension funds. So one of the big, large cost drivers for the state is pensions. Another big cost driver this year is the financing for health care of undocumented migrants. So taxpayers are subsidizing the health care coverage of undocumented migrants. And it's no longer from 42 on up. The 42 to 64 program has been frozen, but the 65 and up program still ongoing. And Governor J.B. Pritzker says the $550 million that's in the budget, that's more than $500 million in the budget, allows for even more undocumented migrants, 65 and up, to take part in that. But again, we've got this surplus that the governor praised late last week, saying that, it's a little surplus, and it goes to show that they're doing good things on a short-term financial basis. But then he was also asked about the Invest in Kids school scholarship program. That's the school choice program that Illinois has that's funded by private donations. And if somebody wants to give, $1,000 to the Invest in Kids scholarship program, they can get a $750 tax credit for their Illinois income tax. So it's a 75% tax credit on that donation for school choice, to give school choice to kids who aren't being helped by their public school. And if their family meets certain income thresholds, they can get scholarship money for school choice. Here's the problem. This program that was started back in 2017, I believe, and then it was implemented over the next couple of years thereafter, it has a sunset of December 31st this year. And a lot of families from all kinds of backgrounds coming together at the State House over the past year and a half to try to lift that sunset, to try to extend the program or make the program permanent. Because you've got thousands of students who have excelled in a school of their family's choice thanks to the Invest in Kids school scholarship program. Again, funded by private dollars. Now, how the tax credits impact the state budget, that's something else entirely. But you got to think, if we've got a surplus from the fiscal year that just wrapped up, isn't there some space to allow for the Invest in Kids program to continue? Governor J.B. Pritzker was asked about this on Friday as he was in Springfield talking about expanding the state's multi-year construction program that's funded by your tax increases on motor fuel and other things. But here's the governor laying out where he's at on the Invest in Kids school scholarship program.
Well, the General Assembly has been considering that program for the last year, in fact, for the last couple of years, and whether it should be extended. I'm willing to work with the program if it gets extended, or to figure out how we would wind down the program if it doesn't get extended. It wasn't in the last budget, as you know, but I know that there are people who are continuing to talk to see if that program will, in fact, continue.
To some extent.
Remember, and I've talked to all sides on this, and my view is that, we ought to be encouraging people who want to continue to go to private school, people who want to go to public school to go there. I want to make sure that we have funding proper funding for our public schools in particular, because we haven't had for many years. We're billions of dollars short of where we ought to be in providing funding for people right here in central Illinois, southern Illinois, not to mention, of course, in the Chicago area and northwestern Illinois. And I continue to fight for that. And in fact, I think I've put more money, or at least proposed and gotten passed more money for education, K-12 education, public education, than any governor in our history in terms of an increase in funding. So we're going to continue to work with and listen to the forces on both sides of this. And I don't think nobody's trying to shut anything down. I think that there's a disagreement about how much money ought to go into a program that supports private schools and that provides a 75% tax credit. It's not a deduction, it's a tax credit. People who say, well, actually, it's not costing taxpayers anything. Actually, it's costing taxpayers 75% of the total amount that gets raised. And so that's something that I think some people who are budget conscious are paying attention to as well.
And while the governor says that nobody wants to get rid of the program, there is a force that wants to get rid of the program, and it's the Public Teachers Union. They don't want the program. They say it diverts money away from public schools, but the program is set up to allow for parents to choose a school that best fits their students' needs because the public schools in their area are failing. And if you look at the public school outcomes for reading, math, and so on, things don't look that great. All right, so that's where we're at with the Invest in Kids program. Will they come back in the fall and re-up it, or will they just let it expire at the end of the year, which would leave a lot of students halfway through the school year without a grant to go to the school of their choice that's best fitting their needs to excel in education? So we'll keep an eye on all of that as we get the latest.